And for the first time in life, I said, never will I sit in front of someone and allow them to define who I am.
Wow.
You're not going to beat me at telling me who I am and what value I bring. And so I began to really educate myself on Dionne. Who is Dionne, and what are the strengths that she brings to a room? So now when I walk into a room, I know exactly what value I add to any space. And so that was why I never wanted to be in a position where someone else defines me, because guess what? They're going to always get it wrong.
Good morning, Miss Dionne. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm well. I'm happy to speak with you. I'm excited about our interview today, and thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming to the FiredUp KC show, man. This has been a lot of change for everyone, being able to transition everything online. And I know you've been, experiencing a lot of change as I have, staying home and working from home. It's been quite a transition for everyone. So can I give us just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do so that the audience can know who we have on the show today?
Yes, thank you so much. Well, first of all, can I say this? Thank you for what you're doing and creating platforms and allowing voices and spaces in some areas that may not get the space. So I appreciate you inviting DMK Consults onto your live streams and onto all of your social media platforms. You are doing a fantastic job, and I've had a chance to look at some of your previous interviews. So I really feel privileged that you have me on your roster.
Thank you.
Just for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. I see you doing this. Yeah, well, it's me too doing it. Thank you all. Good morning to all of your viewers. I do have I posted it out on my social media platform, so I'm excited. And I say good morning to those that also follow DMK Consults. We're glad to have you here. I'm Dionne King, and I am the CEO and strategic consultant for DMK Consults. Now, what is DMK Consults? It is a executive leadership development firm. And what we do is help people play well together and help people achieve about a year or so now at Starbucks.
Yeah.
It's those type of conversations I would have with their executives and their C-suites, and to talk about, okay, how do we first of all mend what happened, and then two, how do we from here on out create these plans where people can feel engaged, people feel included, and we don't have those missteps anymore. Not saying that Starbucks has a strategic D&I plan already. So that's the first way, with diversity and inclusion. And so I get a chance to travel all over the country, really helping companies, corporations. I'm present in 14 industries. So that gives me a really great opportunity to talk about what inclusion looks like in these spaces. And then the second thing is I'm a mediator. I love sitting in between people who are cussing and fussing and try to figure out, and it probably sounds crazy, but trying to figure out how they can come to an amicable decision or something they can live with.
Yeah.
And I love it. I get an opportunity to do it for the courts here in this city. And I also do it for a number of companies globally. So we've extended way outside of the United States. And I have 2 clients that I work with for mediation. An internal mediator for those companies. And then the third part, I love creating and helping other business owners to grow and thrive.
That's
that was
awesome.
a long answer, but
no, that's awesome. Now, before we get right into the other questions, because I believe in anything that people do is the why behind it. It's always important. It's not really, I tell people, it's not what you do, it's why you do what you do. I go by a quote by John Maxwell. He says that people who know what they do or how to do it will always have a job, but someone who knows why will always be their boss, right? So in that line, I want to ask you, what is the why that started you on this path? Why did you choose this? Why did you decide to start this company and be able to become that person who mediates for people? What is your why behind it?
I'm going to, 2 words.
Okay.
My worth. I was in a situation several years back where I was sitting across from one of my bosses who, it wasn't a very good conversation. And immediately I began to recognize that what I did it was being undervalued.
Okay.
And I'm sure my experience as a young educated African-American manager in predominantly Caucasian space, what I'm telling you is not unique, because many people, many women experience that.
Yeah.
So my worth, understanding what my value is, as I sat there and watched him tell me what he thought my value was and define me, I began to get angry more so at me, because I hadn't created a narrative in my head to be able to explain and understand what my worth was. And for the first time in life, I said, never will I sit in front of someone and allow them to define who I am.
Wow.
You're not going to beat me at telling me who I am and what value I bring. And so I began to really educate myself on Dionne. Who is Dionne, and what are the strengths that she brings to a room? So now when I walk into a room, I know exactly what value I add to any space. And so that was why I never wanted to be in a position where someone else defines me, because guess what? They're going to always get it wrong.
Yes.
So
yes.
And that was one of the things. I had an opportunity to speak with one of my clients, the Kaufman Foundation, this past Saturday, and some of their leaders. And that was our thing, is being able to know when you show up in the room, what value you add. And that's my why. And so now spreading that message, showing that through my work, and I stay in my lane. I get quiet, I work hard, and I stay in my lane.
Yes.
I know what I'm good at. And I try to stay right there, and I try to, really, really hone in on that craft. So
wow, that's awesome. That is powerful right there. That is, man, I wish I had like some drum beat, right? Like just applause. That was powerful, man. I love that.
Was over here that I got when I traveled. So if we need to get some drums going, we should do that.
Man, I want to dive into the questions, but I want to say one last thing. Yesterday, I was on a webinar with OHUB KC, and literally what you just said was one of my first points. I told people that it has to start with you, right? It has to start with you knowing who you are and your value, and letting people decide who you can be. And seeing you say that means, okay, I mean, I was right. I didn't know that, but hearing that from you kind of solidified, like, okay, this is a good point. So that's important. I want people to know that it has to start with you and your value. Do not let people define who you are, because they will always get it wrong. Right.
They will always get it wrong. I'm so glad that, first of all, I wish that I had learned that long time ago. It's taken me this long, to be able to communicate that and to be okay with it. And I say this, and then I don't mean to take over, but because I think what you started your talk out with pairs well with mine. But then I also want to speak to people, particularly women, who in our culture are taught that it's just not nice to brag about yourself. And that's not nice. Like the statement I just made, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm good at doing. Many people would go, oh, it's just not a nice girl thing to do. We shouldn't brag about ourselves, particularly in women as a culture, and then African-American women, it's just not nice. But one of the things I've learned growing as a CEO is if you cannot speak to your reality and speak to your future and speak to your business in a way that's powerful and in a way where people feel like they want to be a part of it, then what are you doing? What are you doing? You have to be able to market. Now, you don't need to be annoying, but you have to be able to market yourself and be the best at marketing you. So
exactly. Yes.
That's what I do.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I feel like we need to have another interview at some other point, because I think this is an awesome conversation. But let's get right into it. COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I want to ask you, how have you been able to transition your business during this pandemic? Because you told me you started a new business. How did you start a new business during this time? How did that happen? Tell us, what have you been doing?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. First of all, my business is already component of a virtual presence. So I'm able to do my business just like you and I are sitting right here, because I do have an international presence now. That's the way that they choose for me to meet with their employees. And I would love to fly out to all these different things. Just haven't been able to bring a strong enough case for them to be able to expense that. So this is normal for me. My expansion during this pandemic has been more of a focus on teaching other mediators and business owners how to use a virtual presence for their business.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like you were ahead of the game before this whole thing started. So, man, I'm excited to have you here because you saw the future. You were like, yo, we got to get this thing online before it gets down. Yeah. And like, I think you mentioned that you were organizing virtual series that where you invite business owners to bring hope to the community. How are you doing that? Like, how is that
Yeah.
all work?
Thank you for reminding me about that. It's called Our Community Business Group. And
Okay.
again, that was just another one of my, how can I make a difference and how can I be impactful? And it's 100% free. And I want to tell you this, I do a lot of stuff free, but I do, this is not something I want to make money off of. I want to make impact. And
Yeah.
so being able to gather business owners across this region, and we meet every Wednesday at noon Central
Okay.
Time and talk about some of the what resources are out there for small businesses. We discuss what it means to continue self-care. One of the questions that I really enjoyed was being able to change the dynamics of how we think as business owners on what is good productive time.
Okay.
For me, I love working. I love what I do. And sometimes if I go out and work in the yard, I'll go, I'm wasting time. I could be making money. I could be, talking.
Mm,
One of the things we learned as business owners, particularly during this time and climate that we're in, is that we have to redefine what productivity is. And
okay.
something that nourishes my soul, like working in my yard, can be very therapeutic
Yes.
and will help clear my mind from all of the stress that we're under, trying to stay afloat. So that has been a very instrumental group just for business owners. And we certainly are welcoming people if they want to be a part of it. You can log on to DMK Consults, or you can join us on Facebook and get our Zoom link.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, I really love that when you said that because I think it's important during this season. It's a time to give hope. Like, there are a lot of people who are, being hit hard, like who are being hit personally, and they really want to hear something that said, you know what, we are going to come out of this. We are still working. We have not left you yet, right? So I really love that you're doing that. It's important to do that. And also I want to ask you this, seeing how everything is like going wrong, how everything is not the way people planned it. How can we keep pushing forward? And what do you want to tell to entrepreneurs and business owners out there? How can we keep going? What do you want to tell them today?
See it as seasonal. I see everything as seasonal,
Okay.
which means this too will pass, which
Okay.
means that this is only for a time, which means that in this space that we're in, there are many things that we can learn and grow in.
Yes.
Many people are stressed out because of several things, finances. Here's a funny thing that really was, when we get out of this pandemic, is going to really bless mediators. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are trapped in houses with family members they don't want to be with. And so it's a whole different dynamic change in the family. Hopefully people are not
Yes.
contemplating divorce, but it seems like the numbers are saying, yes, there's a rise in that. So that is
Yeah.
will work for us mediators. So there's a number of things that I would say, hold fast to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Not to minimize what's happening, stay safe, stay in, but then also use this time to grow. If it means this is a time for you to lay in the bed and rest because that's not something you get a chance to do, do it. By all means, do what refreshes you and replenishes your soul. The other thing I would say is, as it relates just to the spirit, and I know this has nothing to do with business, so you can turn the thing off if you want to, but I do value in self-care and speaking to your spirit, mind, body, and soul is all connected.
Right.
And if you can do some things to replenish your soul, do that. Be mindful in what's going on in your headspace. Be mindful of
Yes.
what's going on in your spirit because you cannot function and you cannot work if those things are not intact.
Yes.
So use this time. But here's the other thing. Don't get caught up in trying to continue to be productive and work at the same pace that you normally have.
Mm-hmm.
In some spaces, it is impossible for you to continue to work like that. So create productivity in another area and find solace in knowing that you are completing those tasks and that you are really feeding your soul. You'll notice that once your soul is fed, you'll open up space to be very creative and begin to think about things that pertain to your business. That's how I do it.
Wow, that is awesome. And by the way, it's easy to see me as just an entrepreneur who is interviewing other entrepreneurs. I have my spiritual background. Like I have the mind, body, and soul. I pay close attention to that. So I'm not just a vague business person. I am someone who's foundational in principles, and I take good care and good close look at on all those things. So yeah, I love that, because it's a good time to sit down and actually ask the question of what can I be doing now to improve myself? Like, how can I talk to myself and learn, build my mental ability, build my spiritual side, and also build my body while I'm working out. So all those things are together. Now, before I ask you the last question, this is kind of like a sidetrack question I want to ask you is, what do you think about the theories in, the theories on social media about COVID-19 not being real? Like it's a hoax, it's not happening. What do you think about that?
I think it's sad. I think when you're not paying attention to the climate and what's going on, you will get in trouble. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes there's a saying that many of us know from the Black community. Sometimes we have to show them that fat meat's greasy. Which means that after a while, you will see that what people were saying is true. Listen, I'm going to virtual funerals now almost weekly. I don't like doing it. I don't like using Zoom for funerals. Yeah. I don't like to see loved ones, but it is real. It's real. Life and death are real. And so I do think those people that are saying it's a hoax, that it's a lie, there's a separate agenda. There's a separate agenda other than health being the main priority in life right now. Here's the word that I want, and this may be a new word for many people, your listeners that are listening: confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you filter out things that go against what you believe to be true. Mm-hmm. And people will filter out good information, right information, because it does not line up with what their already preconceived notions. I do believe a lot of this, what that agenda or what those folks are doing is filtering out what they may know to be true because of a separate agenda and because it doesn't line up with what their preconceived notions are of correct and right. Yeah. And I think it is sad. I do think it's going to impede progress. Mm-hmm. You're trying to flatten the curve. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there are people who are having like rallies saying stop the stay home, stop the lockdown, and they're outside with thousands of people spreading the virus. So that's like that's a big problem right there. So that's kind of like I saw in the news. I'm like, man, that's crazy. You guys are supposed to be staying home, not outside.
Well, let's check in with them in 2 weeks. And I hate to be hard about that, but in 2 weeks they'll sing a different song. Many of them will probably see what it feels like to have the virus. I don't wish bad on anyone, but I do think there has to be some wisdom. Yes. Even if you feel like it's overdoing it as far as safety, overdo it. Overdo safety. Wear your mask, wear your gloves. Do all the things to protect you and your family. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you did ask that question because it's one that's pending on everybody's heart. And I get that question a lot with many of my clients and meetings that I have throughout the week. I would encourage people to really, really think about numbers. Numbers are facts. Yeah. And when you see a number of people dying and people getting sick, and it's not just the elderly, you seeing babies die, that should pull on any human's heartstring. Yeah. And so we just need to check ourselves and understand, we're all bored. Mm-hmm. We all want to get out of the house and do things. True. But we do have to be mindful of our health and our community. So
that's awesome.
That's kind of my brief sense on that part.
Now, I know through this interview, you've been like putting out a lot of jewels, but I want to ask you this personally. What is one thing you think we can learn from this? What is one thing you think we can learn from all of this happening?
From all of this happening?
Yeah, what is one thing you think we can learn?
I think this has become the great equalizer. And I say that a lot to my audiences. This whole pandemic is the great equalizer. It has put us all in the same space where we're saying, perhaps my life is not where I'm not conducting it the way I should. Perhaps I'm not lending enough time to family and those I love, lending enough time to the things I enjoy that feeds me. I think it's given us all an opportunity to pause.
Yes.
And I would just, I just encourage us to welcome the pause. Welcome the pause as a time for development and growth. A time to do nothing. We don't always have to be productive, even in our downtime. It's okay to sit and look at the ceiling or sleep or sit outside. Use this time to replenish and restore, because in a few months we'll be right back at it.
Yes.
And for many people really believe that it's going to go back to what they normally were doing. I don't believe so. I
don't think so.
Look and go, I really didn't like the way I was functioning for the last 45 years. Maybe I'll make some changes and for the good. So I'm hoping that people will use this time to just really continue to replenish and restore themselves.
Awesome. Now this is the last question. What is one thing you want to do when this is all over?
I want to go out and eat to a fancy restaurant. I want to wear high heels. I want to put on makeup and just be. I wish to a movie, but movies is where I get my best sleep, so it's not a good idea for me. For some reason, the whole environment just makes I pass out. So, I would love to. Yeah, that's just kind of been the one thing I really want to do. I want to see my mom. I want to. But yeah, go out to a fancy restaurant with those I love.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, that's the end of the interview for us today. Thank you, Ms. Dionne, for coming on the show. Like, I appreciate you coming here to share a couple of minutes with me, answering questions. Like, what you're doing is awesome, and I hope when this is all over, we can get to connect and actually, be normal human beings again and not be on a virtual interview. So, thank you for coming on the FiredUp KC show. And if there is a place people can find you, you can like your maybe website or your social media platforms, let them. You can put it out there.
Yes, it's DMK Consults. Okay. You can also find me at Dionne King. We are very active on all social media platforms, and we certainly will welcome you joining us. And I don't know how you're going to do this interview, Zeke, but are you going to push it out there for people to see?
Yes. So this interview we're going live on Facebook. That means it's on our page right now. It's on my page at Zeke and Gang, also on the FiredUp KC page. As well, by Friday, this will go on YouTube. So there will be an edited version of this on YouTube at FiredUp KC, so people can actually go there and view it. And it's going to be like a shorter version with all the main points on it.
Oh, okay, good. Well, again, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for just bringing a voice to a lot of different industries and spaces and being able to highlight what we're doing in our community. I love my community.
Yes.
And I appreciate people like you that are again giving a voice to it. So thank you, and continue the good work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on, and I hope and I pray that you stay safe and stay healthy, and just keep pushing. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the other side. And you have a great day. All right.
You do the same. Thank you.
Hey, do not click off. Click the link and go to FiredUp KC on YouTube, and please subscribe. All right, stay safe.